Welcome to another edition of Freedom Beyond the Bars, and today we feature Arnold Ramlogan, convicted in 1999 for the crime of murder, and this is his story.
Well, there are so many places to start in relation to my life. In a nutshell, growing up as a child, I was very obedient to my parents, to the elders, to people in the community. But something went wrong at some point in the stage in life. That's what led me to prison. But in my early years, growing up as a child with family members surrounding me at all times, I was obedient. At the end of the day, I grew up in a good family. Mother and father, brother and sister. They were very respectful to me. I was very respectful to them. Our household were 5 people. Mother, father, brother and a sister, with myself. I grew up in San Fernando and Laramine. My grandmother was from Laramine. My parents were from San Fernando. Back and forth wasn't a problem to me, because it was all love with my family. With my grandmom, I truly understand what it felt like to be a grandson. You know, she treated me with love. Probably, they used to say I was the apple of her eye. You know, she used to carry me at a young age to the garden. That is where I got the love of planting the land. Up to this day, it is still my first love. She taught me to be kind, to be humble, to fear God at all times. She taught me the ways of the soil, how to plant, when to plant, what to plant, how to, you know, navigate your course as a gardener through life. I learned that from her, and in that developed me to a certain point. With my parents in San Fernando, it was basically the same, you know. Growing up in San Fernando was not easy, because growing up on the streets, I didn't grow up on the streets as a young child, but being in San Fernando, you will know the ways of a city life. And that molded me into a certain young man, or should I say into a respectable young man. Now, I wouldn't go into much details, you know, but in a nutshell, in San Fernando life, I learned many different trades. I was a welder. I play pool at a, I wouldn't say international level, but a professional level, pool and snooker, right? That is some of the things that we played as children growing up. Cricket, football, we go to San Fernando Hill, you know, boy days kind of stuff. But coming into my early teens, things started to get a little more complicated. Although we had love in our household, you know, fathers tend to be a little strict on boy children. But I believe that he was a little too strict with me, you know, and that caused a rift between myself and my father. Now, it was not really a problem in itself, but he started to get too stern with me at times in dealing with life issues. You know, as a teenage growing up, you will have issues and these things, right? He taught me some of the ways of the world, but as I said, he was a kind of abusive father, and that pushed me away from him. In relation to my mom, it was all love, you know, support. She was more humble and kind in dealing with her children. I went Pleasantville. I went Asha Primary, which is on Park Street in San Fernando. I went Pleasantville Senior Sec, Junior Sec and Senior Sec, finished full schooling, and I did not really do all that well academically. But in terms of trade, I did welding to a T. Having left school, I started to work in Nilamasi as a tradesperson. Then, leaving that work, I started to work in a hardware, on Superior Street, SNS Hardware. Those people treat me very well, but the pay was a little too small. So I started to gamble, pool and snooker, which was very successful. Now, being in that environment, in clubs and on the streets, because that is where the money was, right? I was exposed to a variety of different people. Some of the people that I was exposed to were criminally minded. I had choices, yes, but when hunger starts during the morning, you don't really study sometimes the righteous part, right? And being around these kind of men, you know, peer pressure and always wanting financial support, you know, you will gravitate towards men like them. And two of them saw me at night and, you know, they asked me to commit a crime, which I was reluctant at first. But as the normal lay people say, when your pocket runs dry, you know, you'll do anything to wet it. So the men asked me, well, if I want to go on a scene, I said, well, what kind of scene is that? They said, well, we want to go and take our car. I was kind of reluctant. I was a bit, you know, pessimistic, but at the end of the day, you know, peer pressure was applied, and they said the root of evil is money, right? But it tends to, I don't want to say that per se, but it lured me in a certain direction. And I went with the two men, we stole the car, and we ended up putting on about 15 robberies after that, right? And we went to a certain man to sell the car. He's deceased now. And when we went to the man, he said downright that he's not paying that amount of money. So we told him that we have lots of money already, and we left. While leaving the road that the man lived on, CSU officers braced us and they started to shoot at us. One of the guys was shot in his back. We had two encounters with the police, one in the night and one in the morning. And I helped the guy to, you know, we wasn't arrested. So we ran away with my help, because the guy was wounded in his back with a bullet wound. And I helped him to escape. And 2 months after, I saw the guy, and he telling me the boss wanted to see me. So I said, well, who boss you talking about? He said, well, X wanted to see me. I said, no problem. And I went up to the place that was in Prince. He lived in Princess Song. So when I went into the compound and went upstairs, the boss was sitting at a chair with about 3-4 people talking to him. So I sat to the back, and when the people left, he called me, he said, you is Arnold? I said, yes. He said, where's the age? I said, I'm 17 years of age. He said, you real young, but I will like you as a friend any day instead of enemy, because you as a young fella portray all that courage. I will like you as my friend any day. He said, you want to work for me? I said, doing what? He said, well, I want you to watch my back and I want you to do certain things for me, you know? So I say, all right. He say, you see that money on that chest of drawer, that is yours. He say, see that firearm there, also that is yours too. First time in my life I holding a gun, I never really operate them kind of things, so, you know, but after a while he came in the back and showed me how to operate the gun and things, so I started to roll with the man. And from one thing led to the next thing, right? Being with this guy exposed me to a lot of people, a lot of information, because I remained with him for about 3 years. And in that 3 years, I've learned many things. One of the things that I used to do when dealing with this man is gather information from this man, not from his mouth, but from when he talks to people. And I will take that information now and use it to my advantage. I would like to elaborate a little on that. Sometimes the information I get from this individual was in relation to drugs coming into our country. I will take a different clip of men who I grew up with, not the men who I knew around him, and I will go and rob these people their drugs. So that was my former criminal activities on the outside. I will go to the Mosquito Creek in Laramine, and I will sit up days on end, waiting for when the boat come with a load, and we will take them. Right, so that was my former crime. When I now started to do crime, you know, these guys introduced me to thief in car, and 1 or 2 small pettiness, but I never liked robbing poor people, right? I don't want to look like a Robin Hood, but crime is wrong, and I would not advise the youths to, go on the road that I went. But all the same, this is my story, and I'm trying to tell it in the best way possible. In relation to doing that type of crime, it had a lot of things associated with that. It had, sometimes, you had to deal with people in a certain way you mightn't like. It had sometimes people ducking in your drugs. You had to buck up on them also. And then it had people who take your thing and taking long to pay. So there's a lot of runoff or negatives from doing crime itself. Those were the negatives in relation to that particular crime. You will have negative incidents with dealing with other people. Sometimes you may have to be strong arm other people. Sometimes just words alone will deal with the issues. But basically, that type of crime, you could have lose your life, you could have taken other people's life, and you could have end up on the wrong side, as we say, of the law. Well, as I said, being in close proximity to this individual, it gives me information, and it gives you a certain latitude in the criminal world. Being in closer proximity with this individual, I had known one guy, and he introduced me to what we just call a walk, what we just call someone has a job for you in relation to a robbery or a killing or stealing a car. But in relation to this person, he introduced me to a crime where it had this guy who owned a tobacco field in Canada, and he had one daughter, his wife had died, and he's a gem collector. The information that we receive is that this man had a walk-in vault with about $3 million and about $2 million worth in gems. So the guy came to us and asked us how best we could do this, and I advised them, right? We were in preparation in the night in question to take a car. The car was not to go and kill nobody. We had no intentions to kill no one. The night in question, my incident took place. Our sole purpose was to steal a car from someone, a 626 GLX, to be more precise. While we were in Couva, KFC Couva, we saw a car matching the description we wanted. But when we drive into the compound of KFC on that night, a police jeep pulled up also. So I turned to the fellas and say, see this vibes I get in here? I don't like this vibes. Let me forget about this car, we'll come back and next thing and do this. We know no rush, So them fellas say, well, let me go Shogunas and drink something in a long way and spin up. Let me take a ride now. We don't up here already. I said, no problem, but I do drink alcohol. And so we went up, we proceeded in the direction of Shogunas. Reaching Shogunas, go up the one way. Long 1996, there was a one way passing in front of Medford Plaza and the gas station. Went to Felicity, they buy some drinks. I even take a drink too because, the soldiers are wrong. While coming back down, past Carney Savannah Road, past the Shogunas police station, we didn't know it was a one way we entered because the sign was on the ground. So when we saw two police officers waving us to stop us, so the driver stopped the car. And the police officer came to the side by the driver. He said, like, how Len sees that one while going up. He used our Opsi language, but that wasn't an offense, because sometimes people talk like that. He said, Len sees that one while going up. The driver said, no boss, we sorry, we're not from around here. We apologize for this. So he watched the driver. Same time, a police jeep pulled up and say, how things looking? Everything all right? The driver says, the officer who stopped us says, so far everything looking okay. The jeep pulled off, and the officer asked the driver for his permit and insurance, which were produced. So he asked the driver to come out of the car. When the driver came out of the car, he went to the front, and they had a conversation. I see the driver walk back, stand by the front door, and the officer who dwelt with him came and told me, come out of the car. So I came out of the car. Now that night in question, I had a firearm on me, right? I'm not going to lie. It is the truth. It is a reality. I had a firearm on me. When the officer told me to step out, I stepped out. And The officer came to the front of me and brought me down to the side. He came to the side, but I was looking for the opportunity to run. So when the officer came to my side, I saw that opportunity and run. He held on to my jersey, and it appears that he wringed his hand in my jersey. So I was trying to take out the jersey at all costs, but it couldn't come out. So I turned around and hit the officer about 2 lashes, trying to, to push him off of me or release his hold on me. But he kept on stronger. And while I had the gun, I pulled out the gun, and while we were struggling, we tripped over a chain, right? And no, before we tripped over the chain, a shot was fired and hit the ceiling, right? Struggling with the gun, a shot was fired and hit the ceiling. While we tripped over the chain and fell to the ground, I saw the other officer who was searching the other 2 men in the back seat pull out his gun from his shoes and cock back. Now, I don't really know much about firearms per se, right? I know a little thing, but I'm not no professional. I became so frightened, I thought this man was going to kill me, which he very well probably would have done if he had reached in closeness to me, right? And when I see this man pointing his gun coming at me, I became so frightened, I just point the gun at him and fire, thinking, well, I could hit him in the foot because I was ground level. I wasn't pointing the gun at the man's head. I was pointing at his feet to drop him right there. And so happened, due to this officer shaking me up and hitting me constantly, probably the aim was thrown off course, and the officer was shot in his hip bone, as I was made to understand, and it went up in his intestine. And that is how the officer died. I got up, jumped in the car, and down the road, we passed through under the flyover, and out on the highway, and we went our way. I'm not making excuses, for my crime. I am really remorseful. I am sorry for what I did. It brings pain all around, right? To the family of the deceased, to my family, right? Knowing that I took someone's life, whether it be willful or not, it brings pain to me, right? So I just wanted to make known that I am really remorseful for what I have done. But at the same time, I can't bring back the officer's life. And I hope that the family of the deceased will forgive me at some point in time.
So you were convicted in 1999. Take us through that process.
Now, when I came into prison in 1996, prison was not like how it is today. In 20 years, the face of the prison, both officers and inmates, has changed drastically. Conditions in prison has changed tremendously. Where I'm at right now in maximum security prison, there is toilet and bath in the cell, right? That says volumes, right? There's better conditions at the maximum security prison. At the other prisons, they may very well be the same as I met it, but the mentality has changed in prison. Officers' mentality has changed towards inmates, and to a certain extent, inmates' mentality has changed towards the prison service. Coming in prison in 1996 was a big shock to me. I never thought prison would have been like that. And in my whole born life, I have never thought that I would have spent so long in prison, 20 years and going. In 1996, when I came in, charged for murder, it was not easy. I was placed in a cell on the south wing with about 4 men in the cell. It was not so bad. We had lighting conditions, the food was not all that good in those days, but at the same time, as I said, you have seen a lot of changes. But in 1996, I was under real stress. I don't think anyone will have a problem with me saying this, but being arrested by the police officers, I was beaten very badly, knowing that, you was charged for a police officer, you have to expect that. That comes with the crime. I'm not justifying anything, but at the same time, that is what happened to me. Now, coming into prison, right, at that age, not knowing what prison was like, as I said, was a total shock. And it took a real toll on me, right? Something snapped in my life, saying, whoa, Arnold, something is really wrong here, and you need to get your act together. My first thoughts were how to survive in a place like this, how to cope with being in a cultured environment with people telling you when to bathe, when to go and eat, where to stand, put your shirt in your pants, and these things. It was not an easy adjustment, but at the end of the day, I did it. I had was to, you know, make my life more comfortable in an environment like this. Now, being in prison at that age was not a normal thing, it wasn't an easy thing. There were a lot of challenges, but as I said earlier on, I coped with it and I moved on, right? I wouldn't go into details because there's a lot to say.
Were you sentenced to time in jail or were you convicted to be hanged?
In 1999, I was convicted for murder. I ended up on death row where I spent 9.5 years.
Tell me about that experience.
There's a lot to say in that 9.5 years. I don't believe we have enough time to speak about 9.5 years of my life on death row. In other words, I wasn't the normal average death row inmate. Being on death row have even more challenges of coming into prison for the first time. It comes like you now come into a different world. Death row is a whole different world altogether in prison. Being on remand is a different world. Being convicted as a normal convict, blue man or small timer is a different world. Being convicted as a death row inmate is a whole different ball game. When I was convicted in 1999, I was filled with so much of despair and being despondent. As a big man, I cried that night. And I asked myself where I found myself. I want to know where I find myself. The place was dismal. The place was gloomy. And you felt a weight on your shoulder that I have never felt in my life. Having the sentence of death on your head is something that I would not wish on my enemy. Being on death row, I was exposed to a lot of different mindset, attitude, and a lot of different emotions. One of them was anger. Another was sorrow, was pity, remorse. You know, these are the emotions that are constantly in you. You are fighting to overcome the despair that you feel on death row on a daily basis. I tried to escape 3 times on death row. I was not successful, but probably God have, I should not say had, but God have a purpose for me in life. And while on death row, trying to come out the illegal way, as I said, I was not successful, right? Something snapped again in me. There's an old saying, an old adage that rang clear in my mind: 3 strikes and you're out. I said to myself, Arnold, if you try to escape 3 times and was not successful, this is not for you. So I totally abandoned trying to escape. I was commuted, my sentence of death was commuted in 2008, and I ended up in the cell block due to a risk factor, due to being a risk factor in escaping. The authorities had to take that approach. I was taken out from cell block and placed at the maximum security prison in 2008, late 2008. I spent a year roughly in the cell block at the maximum security prison. I was given a chance by the prison authorities to come out of the cell block to prove myself. Up to this day, I have never let down the prison authorities. Today, well, before I am what I told you, before I go into that, I would like to say that when I came out of the cell block in 2009, a lot of different courses were made available to me. Anger management, life skills, leadership skill program. I was exposed to church, which had a major impact on who I am today, the Church of Christ. That had a major impact on who I am today. I received certificate. I was baptized under the Church of Christ. So I received a lot of different courses that made me who I am today. One of the courses that had another major impact on my life is radio broadcasting. In 2012, we became certified radio broadcasters or radio presenters. 10 inmates together with 10 officers collaborated, and we joined as a team to become Rise Maximum Radio. Rise meaning reintegrating inmates seeking empowerment. At Rise Maximum Radio, I was given the opportunity to apologize nationwide, which I did on several occasions. At Rise Maximum Radio, I was given also the opportunity to be the first inmate that was interviewed by the BBC. My interview was aired on the 6th of November 2012. Rise Maximum Radio has done a lot for me, the officers and the inmates alike. I have become a different person altogether. I have become more conscious in life. I have become more humble in life. I know what I really want in life. I know my purpose in life now, and I know the purpose why God did not allow me to escape on death row. I am now seeing that in my life. Today, I am a mentor for children on the outside in schools, for anyone, a matter of fact, whether they be in or out of prison. Just yesterday, I went to Matura area, Toko, Matura, and I talked to children, Matura Primary School. I spoke to them, which I was well received. I spoke to children at the Matura Secondary School, which I was well received, and what I said was well received. So today, in my life in prison, I would not call it a bed of roses because I have the same emotions of what I had on death row because I am serving a sentence of life imprisonment. I don't have a date, and that is something will trouble anyone. Every single day it will trouble you. But my position now is more of a better one, and I am more equipped and ready for society on the outside. I believe that I can make a difference in people's life on the outside to point them in a different direction, one of righteousness.
So you are currently at peace with yourself right now?
Well, I am at peace, yes, but my mind is always at war with the sentence that I have. I, being a rehabilitated person, believe that I can be given a chance. I believe that if given a chance, I will really make an impact on society because while being in prison, you know, you have a lot of dreams. You have a lot of views and opinions and a lot of thoughts. You have things that you will want to fulfill on the outside. There is two things that I would like to do on the outside. One is that me and an inmate, myself and an inmate called Marlon Daniel, we draft up a manifesto to launch an organization called ABORN. ABORN means Adequate Born Organized Renewed Nation. That is about helping homeless children come off the street and make them productive members of society. It is about helping male and female single parents become capable in growing their children, right? That is one of my dreams. Another of my dream is sponsoring crusades. I have already spoken to the brothers in Church of Christ, and there is a mechanism in the church to do such. I would like to sponsor crusades on an international, regional, and local basis. But the vehicle that I will be using to transport all these different dreams and aspirations that I have is large-scale agriculture. That is one of my main objectives when I go on the outside, to support me and my family and to support what I would like to do. Large-scale agriculture is my dream. That is the way I think that society probably needs to go in order to, you know, stem the little recession that we are facing down here, right? It is my dream, and it is something that I would like to see bear fruit. So I am not going outside to waste my time or to skylark on a corner or to be in bad company as I was before. I am going to make an impact. I'm going to set a mark in this world that I wouldn't say will change history, but that it will show that sometimes being in prison is not all that bad, but it's what you do with your time while you are in prison makes a difference in your life in the future.
Is there anything you would like to share with the viewers before we end this program?
Well, I have a program called Spotlight. Spotlight is geared towards rehabilitated inmates, putting food for thought in their mind. At the end of all my program, I always tell the inmates and all those who listen, whether they be officers or inmates, be obedient to God, and He will always bless you. Be obedient to your parents, be obedient to your elders, be obedient to the authorities that be, and they will not fail you. The scriptures tell you that the minister that God has established do not have a fiery sword for the good, but his sword is for those who choose to do wrong. My advice to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, be more conscious of how your actions affect people, how your words affect people, and be more conscious about the little children that you, as role models, may have an influence on. As long as we are more conscious on how we affect people in this life, the world will be a better place. So that is my advice to Trinidad and Tobago. Be more conscious of how your actions really do affect people. Because when you look at the Middle East and how people deal with people across there, we definitely don't want Trinidad and Tobago to reach in that state. How the terrorists deal, how they apply their methods is totally wrong. So how people apply their methods in dealing with people will determine the outcome of how people react. So people of Trinidad and Tobago, be conscious, be obedient to God, love your brother and sister as you love yourself, do unto others as you would like others do unto you. That is what I have to tell the people of Trinidad and Tobago. I hope that it was very instrumental, in assisting in some way.
Honorable, thank you very much for the opportunity to share your story, and we wish you all the best, and we hope that as you continue your mentorship, you will change lives in this country.
Thank you very much. Although time was limited, and I'd love to say more, because my life is an open book, and I would like people to learn things from my life. Although time is limited, I hope that what I have said today will be instrumental in probably exacting change in the youths and in society as a whole.
So again, we thank you, we thank the Commissioner and the entire prison service staff for giving us this opportunity to bring this program to the viewers of Trinidad and Tobago.